Thank you for saying good morning to me. I'm a very needy person, and I needed that. All right, let me start with a question this morning. If I were to ask you one of these two questions, either how is life going, how are you doing, or how's things going in your life, how many of you could answer with the word busy? Raise your hand. Yeah, be proud of your busyness. Well, maybe, I don't know. That's good to hear. I'm going to be honest with you. My life has just been busy. I thought about sitting down on the edge of the stage for most of the message, but I'm so short it would be really annoying for some of you. And just because I'm tired, I'm busy, I got so much to do, so many things on my to-do list that never get crossed off. How many of you have a to-do list that never gets finished, ever? It's because when you get close, you just add more. Okay. That's really good, because you're like me, and if that's the case today, where you feel busy, you feel maybe even a little overwhelmed, maybe a hair stressed, I think this message might be an encouragement to you. I once heard a pastor say that if Satan can't make you bad, he'll make you busy. If he can't get you to do bad things, he'll just get you to be real busy and distract you from what's important. We're in a series called I Struggle With. I had planned for the last few weeks and prepared a message to talk today about how to know God's will. How to discern what God would have you to do. How many of you would love to know what God would want you to do in certain situations and choices? Yeah, not today, okay? Not today. And I was really excited about that, because if I'm honest and real with you, no one filled that card out but me. I wrote, I struggle with, well, I didn't write it, but since it wasn't in there, I was going to write it and say, I will struggle with understanding God's will, because every day I want to figure out, does God want me to do this or that? I want to please God. I want to live a life that gives him glory. So how do I know his will? And so I began to study and put together this Bonnie, it was an amazing message, if I could say so myself. And I finished even early, in case you were wondering, on Thursday, and I wrapped it all up and got it all figured out. And I said, Friday, I'm going to get all that stuff done on my to-do list. And so I went to bed Thursday night, and I thought, what if it's God's will that I don't preach on God's will? It popped in my head, so I was just thinking on it, chilling on it. I'm like, silliness, go to bed. So I went to bed, woke up the next morning, went and did my normal stuff, and I began to start checking off the to-do list. And one of the first things I've been trying recently is to make sure I spend time with Jesus. I feel like that's a pretty important thing to do, especially if you're like a pastor. So, probably should get on that. So I'm trying to work on sitting in silence. That's about how well it's been going. And so I'm sitting there in silence, just saying, God, speak to me. What do you want me to do? And I don't know if you've ever done this when you try to pray or try to just be with God. All of a sudden, all those things I had to do just start going. Everything. I'm like, well, I'm leaving this week, so I got to get packed for that. I got to pray for that. I got to make sure that the church doesn't fall apart while I'm gone, because it might fall apart. And I got to get all this stuff and just going through all the list in my mind. And all of a sudden, I felt this thought pop in my mind that that's what God wants you to teach on. Said it is God's will that you not preach on God's will this week, because you need to be reminded of this. And maybe someone can relate to this. Today we're going to talk about this. I struggle with putting Jesus first. Yay. My guess is I'm not the only person in the room that struggles from time to time. You want to make sure God is first in your life, but I'm sure that there's people in the room today that struggle with keeping Jesus at the top of your to-do list. Can you raise your hands? It's like you don't want to let people know that, but if we're just being honest and I can be real with you this morning, your pastor struggles. Because like I said, I got a lot of things to do, and I'm not trying to, brag and tell you how much stuff I got on my plate, but I got a lot of things on my plate, okay? And it's real busy, and life is crazy right now. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm not saying that to make you feel sorry for me. I'm just saying it because it's true. And I found myself recently over the last few weeks, as I look back over my shoulder, I'm like, when did you spend time with Jesus? When did you put him first in the day? You got all this stuff to do, and normally what you're doing is trying to accomplish the stuff and then say, well, when I finish that, then I'll really give Jesus quality time. So I found myself doing that, and so I really felt that God wanted me to kind of share this story with you today, share this little, I'll call it devotional. It's less of a message and more of an encouragement that God was speaking to me, so you get to just sit and listen. And if you don't like it, sorry. I don't know what to tell you. The first service I said, if you don't like it and I don't like it, I'll just preach God's will in the second service. But I still felt that God was saying, stick with this one. So we're going to take a look at a story between two sisters, the M&M sisters, Mary and Martha, and see how they maybe struggled with what you and I struggle with, putting Jesus first in our life. So let me read. In Luke chapter 10, says this: as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, they came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. Martha was distracted by all that had to get done. She was so overwhelmed by the things that she had to do that she missed the thing that she needed the most. And here's her sister Mary sitting at Jesus' feet, relaxed, rested, chilled, just hanging out with Jesus. And then there's Martha, who's probably more like you and you and you and me. See, none of what she was doing was bad. Have you ever had someone over to your house and you get ready, right? Like you clean places you've never cleaned before, okay? You find things in the couch cushion that you didn't even know were there, and you're like, well, someone's coming over to my house. I got to make sure that we plan and prepare, and they're going to get the best seat, and I'm going to cook the best food, and we're going to get out the best dishes we have. No paper plates for them. They're getting the plastic plates, the ones that some people wash again. I mean, we're going to do that. Yeah, because we got company coming over. And if you come over to my house, sometimes when I'm feeling real spiritual, I'll even put Spotify Christian music on the TV. So when you walk in, you're like, oh, this is what the house of Christians looks like. Yeah. So I'm sure that's what Martha was doing, right? She's cleaning, she's preparing, she's making, because she's got Jesus coming over. I mean, if you come over to my house, that's what you get. But if Jesus was coming over to my house, we might buy new furniture, okay? Like, we're going all out. And so Martha was making sure that she was prepared for Jesus. Nothing that she was doing was bad. It was actually all really, really good. But she was missing something. She became so distracted by all that needed to get done that she missed something great, something better, something more important than making sure that there was matching silverware and plates and cups. My guess is that we're real today. Many of us are distracted by all the good things in life that we're missing out on the best things. We're so focused on all that we have to get done, all these good things, but they're not the greatest thing. And we find ourselves like Martha. I would encourage you this morning with this. I really believe that if you cultivate your relationship with Christ, if you make sure that takes priority in your life, above everything else, I believe with all that I am that everything else will be better. That it will have a positive impact on every other area of your life. Marriage, parenting, work, friendships, finances. If you're, and it's not just that, okay, if you just focus on Jesus, you'll get more money or your marriage won't have problems. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if this is your focus and your attention and you're really working this and cultivating this relationship, you will have the right perspective on everything else. And I believe Christ can give us strength to get through even when those things and the other things, the good things, but not the great things, even when they're not going well, if you're focused on Jesus, he can help get through it. Let me show you where I get that from. Philippians 4:13. If you love sports, you know this one. It says this: I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. We love that verse. Remember from a few weeks ago or months ago? That verse means if you want to, you can hit home runs because God will give you strength. It's not that at all. That's not what that verse means. I used to actually think that. I used to wrestle in high school, and so I would pray before every wrestling match. I would say, God, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Give me the strength to go out there and destroy this man. In your name, amen. That's not what that is about. There's context to this verse, so let me read the verse before it to help you understand what Paul was trying to say. He's trying to say when you have Jesus and focus on Jesus and he is the top priority in your life, he can give you strength to be content with whatever is happening around you. So the verse before says, I have learned to be content with whatever I have. I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I have learned the secret to living in every situation, whether it is a full stomach or empty, with plenty or little. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. So I really believe that even if the rest of your life is falling apart, you can do all things, can make it through any and all situations because Christ gives us strength. That's why I think it's so important if he becomes the top of our to-do list, the top priority in our life, if that is going well, then you can say it is well, even in the midst of situations and struggles and trials and moments in your life where you're saying this isn't good. You can still say that you are good because Christ gives us strength to get through it. So I want you to take a moment and I just want you to ask yourself, what is the most important thing in your life? Think about it. What is the most important thing in your life? Now, because it's Mother's Day, many of you are leaning over to your mom and saying, "It's you, Mom." I'm going to text my mom afterwards and say that. "You are the most important thing in my life, Mother." Right? Or some of us that are husbands in the room, you're leaning over and saying, "It's you, honey. It's so you." Some of us would say our kids, our family. Some of us would say our job, like if we're just being honest. You don't have to shout it out, but if we're being real, like that's really important to us. Some of us might say something like the Chicago Bears. Maybe that's not your team, but just insert your team, MSU. I mean, you maybe wouldn't say it out loud that that's the most important thing in your life, but if you take a look at where your priorities are, and sports sit up there at the top, before Jesus, before family, like that becomes the thing for you. If we're honest and we're real, I bet you would find out that for you, sometimes the most important thing is not what you know it should be. Now, if you're in the room today and you're a follower of Jesus, you say, "I'm a Christian," you know the right answer, and you want it to be the right answer, and you want to be able to say, "Jesus." Because if you don't know the answer is always Jesus. Okay? You want to be able to say that. And with good intentions, you want him to be number one in your life. But as you look at your life, that he doesn't always make it to the top of the list. And my hope today is to encourage you to take a look at the things that are distracting you from keeping Jesus number one. And reprioritize your life to where he gets the top of the to-do list, and that you would begin to see your need for Jesus to be first in your life. We're often, like Martha, so distracted from all the things that we have to do. We want to spend time with Jesus, but when we get this done, I'll get there, but I got a lot of other things first. And I know that we don't want it to be that way, but it seems that our time and our schedule is full of those things. So let's take a look. Martha was distracted by all that had to get done, so she gets mad. Instead of taking a look at her life and realizing, like, maybe I should do something different, she says, "I'm going to tattle on Mary." So here's what happens. Martha goes to Jesus. She said, "He's in charge. I'll tell him what's going on." She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." And then Jesus has been watching the Brady Bunch, and he says, "Martha, Martha, Martha." For those of you that don't know the Brady Bunch, you're too young. It was incredible. My childhood. "Martha, Martha, Martha," Jesus says, and then he looks at her and says, "You are worried and upset about many things." I've said this once before. Many of you, probably half of us in the room, that could be your life verse. You are worried and upset about many things. You can tattoo that on your forearm. Look at it every day. That's me, worried and upset about many things. Another day, another worry. And for the other half of us in the room, maybe you're like me, I don't get worried or really upset that easily, but I could just say it this way. You are distracted and preoccupied by many things. Maybe you could do that too. That's your life verse, that you're always so worried and stressed and overwhelmed. There's just so much going on here. You're so worried and upset about many things. But look at what Jesus says to her. He says, although all the busyness of life is distracting you, listen. You got to understand something. You're missing it. Here's what he says. But few things are needed. Actually, only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her. He said, you thought I was going to tell her to be more like you. But I'm here to tell you to be more like Mary. He says there are a few things that are important in life. And then he's like, wait a second. No. One. There's one thing most important in life. And she's figured it out. Family is important. Your marriage is really important. Your friendships are important. Church is important. And work, all those things are good things. But they're not always the greatest thing. Too many times we allow good things to distract us from great things or God things. We get so focused on the wrong thing. Jesus says, don't try to take that from Mary. She's figured it out. Now, Martha, I'm sure, wanted to spend time with Jesus. She's pretty smart. She opened up her home for Jesus. She didn't do that so she could sit in the kitchen the whole day, right? Like, she wanted to hang out with Jesus. So I'm sure what she thought was, if I get all of this done, then I can go be. Not a bad idea. It's just Jesus, like, you got it in the wrong order. And Mary, I bet Mary was like, hey, like, I'll sit with Jesus first. I'm going to go help. Maybe. But I'll sit with Jesus first. And after I just spend some time here, in this moment, then I'll go. Or maybe Mary was just like, I'm just going to sit with Jesus and I'm not going to help at all. Like, I'm just not going to go in the back and do any sort of work. My guess is that Mary had it figured out that if it's not saying that we shouldn't do the things. My wife always says, all the things. I just got all the things to do. I'm like, what? That's not a real sentence. What are you doing? Working on all the things. You know what that means, right? We got all the things. It's not that saying we shouldn't do all the things, but Mary figured it out. I'm going to be with Jesus first. I'm going to do first what matters most. I'm going to sit at his feet. I'm going to listen to him because I'm not sure how long I'm going to have with him. So I'm going to make sure I spend some time with him first. And then I'll go help my sister. And then I'll go take care of the to-do list. And then I'll go and do and accomplish. But first, I want to make sure I do what's most important. And I think we need to reorganize our life to make sure Jesus is at the top priority. Jesus actually says this at a different time when he's teaching. He's teaching about, maybe you've heard, he says, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow has enough worries of its own. And he's talking about how like, you don't need to worry about food, and you don't need to worry about clothing, because just like I take care of the birds, and I take care of the flowers, like God can provide, God can take care of you. And then he says this, he says, in case that's not clear enough, Matthew 6:33, seek the kingdom of God above all else, and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need. He says, seek first the kingdom. Seek first Jesus. Put first your relationship with Christ. And everything else, the important things, the good things, everything else, God will take care of. It's not that they're not important, but they're not the most important. My hope and prayer is that today you walk out of here encouraged to put Jesus first. To take time in your day to start your day with what matters most. I know in my life there's times where I'll start my day, no matter what else I'm doing, I get up and just first things first. A little prayer, a little verse, a little time with Jesus. I mean, we're not saying you got to spend the first hour of the day in a closet with your prayer beads before the Lord. No, I'm just saying put him first. Say, you know what? You matter more than anything else. And I want to prove that by waking up 10 minutes earlier. 10 minutes earlier to sit with you, to be with you, to listen to you, to make sure that no matter what else happens today, I spend time with you. And there's times in my life where I do that. Even when I don't accomplish anything I plan to do the rest of the day, I normally go to bed with a smile on my face. Because I got my priorities straight. Because I see things the way they're meant to be seen. And to be open and honest, I've been struggling with that. Man, I just got so much to do. I'm so busy. And so many times we think busyness is a badge of honor. When someone says, hey, how are you doing? Oh, busy. That means important. All these people need me. I have so much to do. And we think it's like super cool. I want someone to come up and ask me, how are you doing? I'm saying, bored. I spend so much time with just Jesus. It's crazy. How about you? What? Maybe that's the wrong way to look at it, but I believe that if we seek Jesus first, he can take care of all the other things that need to get done. He can help us accomplish things. He can help us set goals. He can help us do, but first we must be. Just be with him. So if you're here today and you got dragged here because it's Mother's Day and you got to do what your mom wants, or if you're here today and someone else dragged you here, or you don't even want to be here and you're like, how can I put Jesus first? He's not even a part of my life. I believe with all that I am that you were brought here for this moment, for this time, to make a decision to put Jesus in your life. And then to let him be Lord, which just means leader of your life. God's word says this: if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is the Lord of your life, leader of your life, first place in your life, if you make that known with your mouth, and you believe that Jesus came for you, that he died for you, and that he rose again for you, you will be saved. You get to begin a relationship with him today. And I'm telling you, you came for that. That's why you're here. Because he can impact every other area of your life in the greatest way possible. And if you're like, Chase, I've already done that, maybe you've been like me. Not on purpose. It's not like you said, Jesus, you go to the end. I got 6 other things to do. No one does that on purpose. If you do, I do counseling throughout the week if you want. Nobody does that on purpose. It's just life happens. We get busy. Other things start to crowd out. What's so important that we never let get crowded out. Don't be distracted by so many things. Don't let your to-do list take priority in your life. Put Jesus first. Because there's nothing that matters more. So we're going to close a little bit differently today. I'm going to ask a couple of the members of the band to come, and we're going to close with a song that I heard this week that just confirmed that this was the message that I needed to preach. And I want you to just sit. We're going to close the lights off for a little bit. I want you to sit and listen to these words. That everything else can wait. Some of us just need to be reminded to take a moment just to be with Jesus. Maybe that can be something we can do every day this week. Let me pray. Lord, may the words of this song become alive in us this morning and be real to us today. And if we're feeling that we needed this message, don't let us lose it tomorrow. Don't let us become distracted tomorrow when we have to go and do. May we remember to put you first and love you more than anything else.